Today I have Deonn stop with me and she is going to show a few projects using Lori Holt Circle Rulers. So welcome, Deonn.
Thanks so much.
Well, we've got these fun circle templates that are in all different sizes.
And these are great. You can use them with pre-cuts and lots of different projects. Should we get started?
Let's get started. And I like that you got this ring to keep them all together because that doesn't necessarily come with it. So that's a great idea.
And we've loaded up your UFO to go here with projects.
Deonn made me a pink one because I love pink, and I just think it's a fantastic project, which you've already done a tutorial on how to create this. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Keep me so organized.
Yeah. And believe it or not, we have 6 projects in here that we're going to do today. So these rulers come in sizes that can be used on pre-cuts. The largest one can fit on a 10-inch square. The next one is a 7-inch square.
And Lori Holt's new fabric line has 7-inch.
It's going to have 7-inch squares.
Yes.
And then this little circle fits on a 5-inch square. And then the smallest one could fit on a little roly-poly, a 2.5-inch strip or square.
That makes it really convenient.
So this first block is actually going to be Lori's pattern that she created using these rulers. That's free pattern.
On our website, and we'll show a picture of that.
So in it, she's used several of the well, I think she used all 4 sizes in these blocks. And the first one is actually pieced together.
So she used 5-inch
5-inch squares.
Okay.
So she could get a bigger piece.
Okay.
And the nice thing about these is that there is a registration line, a grid that you can line up and see exactly where to trace or cut or sew or and to make your block.
Okay.
Her cute pattern is called Lots of Dots. And so she made dots with the large circle. She put a medium-sized circle in the middle of it, and that's what we're going to do right now.
Okay.
So if you'd grab your tracing pencil.
All right. Let's see. Again, you made me these great projects. Something to put my pencils in. So there you go.
Okay.
Or you want me to trace?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And you can just lay this right down, and those registration marks should follow the seams. So she sewed 4 blocks together, and for this project, she recommends pressing the seams open rather than to the side so that they'll lie flat.
That's good to know.
And that was a good way to do that. If you start in one place, then you can finish it up. Okay, so you've traced a line here. And in order to make this block so that it can be appliqued to another background, then she uses this Pellon product, a really lightweight, non-fusible Pellon. That's something that's not going to cause a lot of bulk.
So that's a Pellon 45?
I think that's the number.
Okay.
And we'll pin that onto the Pellon.
And I've got my pins right here.
And that mark that you made, that pencil mark is actually going to become your stitching line. So if you can just start, and then when you get back to the beginning stitches, overlap it a little bit, and then we'll turn it inside out and prepare it for applique.
All right, I'll take this to the machine. Great. All right, so we've sewn around our trace line. What's next?
Now we trim off those raw edges, and one of the very best ways to do that is with pinking shears. Now, I know most of us have pinking shears hiding in the sewing room somewhere.
I haven't used these in a while.
But see those little teeth on there? Instead of clipping just a straight line around and then clipping your corners so that it will lie flat,
this saves you a step.
This cuts out little wedges perfectly, and then it's going to lie really smooth around the corner. So go ahead and trim that. And I've made a couple of the other sizes ready to trim. Let's see, where did my other pinking shears go? Let me find. Here. So at home, I didn't have any Pellon, and so I've used a dryer sheet to
When you're in a pinch,
use the same
you can use a dryer sheet.
the same effect. You kind of have to put it through the washer a couple of times to get that
That's
product out of
soft.
it.
Okay.
So
That's good to know.
because you don't want the oils on your fabric.
Yeah.
And so, but you
so
can.
this is the best product, but if you're in a pinch,
Well,
maybe
or
a dryer
just
sheet
need
will
a little
work.
tiny piece, then a dryer sheet works really well. Okay, so you've trimmed that around,
I have.
and now grab your scissors, because we're going to just lift that up and separate it from the fabric.
So I'm not clipping my
So
fabric.
don't clip or block after all that work. And just make a little slit, about 3 or 4 inches, just wide enough so that you can turn it right side out.
Okay. I just turn it inside out. That's how you get these perfect circles.
Right, and another fun tool to use is a chopstick.
And you brought me a chopstick.
And there you go. If you'll just insert that, because this pellon is so light, you'll want to make sure that you're not pushing against the pellon itself. Put the tip of your chopstick right beneath the seam allowance.
And that works really well. So
And that will get that really
I'm not
smooth.
pressing on the pellon.
Right.
I'm pressing on the fabric.
Now you could do this with a fusible, but you'd have to finger press it. You wouldn't want to use the iron until you've got it in place where you need it to be. But I think our grandmothers used to do their applique pieces this way also. They'd get a piece of muslin and do it, and that saves a little time, a little effort instead of needle turning the applique pieces.
That makes a beautiful circle.
Right.
So this is going to go inside the circle.
So this will be the center of it. Isn't that fun? So we'll press that first.
Okay.
We'll press both pieces. And then we'll applique it to a background square. And I think you only have to do 9 of these.
Do you want me to
for
put
her
this
whole, yeah, would you?
inside out?
You only have to do about 9 of these blocks for her whole quilt. And several of the medium size, several of the small size. It's really a cute quilt. And a great way to use 5.5-inch squares.
This is just a little itty bitty, but you can see, because to get a perfect circle can be so tricky. I'm just going to use
Right.
my finger this time.
Okay, and
that
so
just turned out great.
So we'll
Give
press
them
that. We're going to use this one a little later for another project.
Okay.
So if you would press this, just finger press it in half and in half again.
So
then
we
we'll
can
find
the center.
Where it needs to go on that block.
Just put it in like that.
Cute.
Flip it like that. Flip it like that. And then we'll get our pens.
Right, so that fold line just lines up perfectly.
And Lori
With the seam.
just machine appliques these.
Right, there's a lot of different ways that you could applique, but just a tiny little zigzag, just like a 1.0 wide, is how she usually does hers. So we'll first applique this to the circle, the larger circle, and then we'll applique this to a background square.
Okay.
Okay, let's set the zigzag stitch, it's number 4, and 1.0
for the width. And the length, we're going to do 2.0. All right, so we put it right on there. And what we're trying to achieve is 1 stitch on both sides.
Right.
And just working around the circle.
Okay,
All right, let's take
Great.
it back. That looks nice.
okay, great. Let's remove the pins and we'll press that and get it ready to put on the background, which is a 12.5-inch square.
Okay.
And would you fold that in half,
Find the center.
find the center, and then we'll get this one ready for that final step of applique.
Just finger press that.
You know, you can hardly even see where that's been stitched.
That's
Nice
use
job.
such a small zigzag that it really hides the
You could
stitch
use
line.
monofilament thread. We just used white thread and it just blended right in. Okay, so nice thing about the seams is they're going to line up with your fold lines.
Oh, good idea. You don't have to fold this in half. You just line it up
Yeah.
right there.
You're done.
Great.
So pin that on, we'll stitch it on, and that block's ready.
Stitching
And-
it this way saves so much time.
Doesn't it though?
Doesn't it?
Yeah. Great. And then the rest of the pattern, she's got all these little other filler sizes in her quilt. And you can find that online.
Okay. So let's take
Okay.
it to the machine.
Okay.
Well, that is such a simple way
Isn't
to
that
create
great?
a block and precise circles too.
You know exactly where it needs to be so it's straight. Looks great.
So this is a very good pattern that's on our website that
Oh.
uses these templates. Okay, so
Okay,
what's
so
next?
let's leave these for a little later project and we'll go to the next one. This is so fun. I'm excited to show you this one. It's one of my
So
favorite blocks.
fun.
It's the Drunkard's Path, and it's so easy to make with this template. So we've used the 7-inch template, traced a circle,
On the wrong side. Okay.
right? And then trimmed it with about 1/4 of an inch away from that line that we drew.
With the
Okay.
pinking shears.
Yes, with
Using
for
the
sure
pinking
with the
shears.
pinking shears. Okay, and then I also used a template to cut out a little cardboard template so that we can starch around the edges of this and then press them around this template that we've made.
Okay.
So we just need a giant pin in the center here, a little
Goes
bit
right
of
on your
starch. Well, let's do the starch first. And I like to get it a little bit wet.
So you got
And
plenty of
so-
starch on your block.
Yeah, so it
On
will
your
curve around
Fabric.
the template. And then I anchor it with this large pin so I can twirl it around as I go. And then just use the edge of the iron to press those little teeth. And because they're cut with the pinking shears, I can't say this enough. See how nicely that's curving? There's no lumps, no.
Great idea. And you can just rotate around that pin.
Yeah, it just spins right around.
Excellent tip.
And if you have enough starch on it, then once this is pressed, then that template will just pop right out and it'll keep its shape
Mm-hmm.
so that we can just take it right to the background piece and press,
That is looking good.
stitch. This is my favorite method of applique.
Is it?
I think it gets a nice crisp edge.
Well, it's nice to use a form. So again, you're not trying to create your circle on your own. You've
Right.
got a template underneath it to get that perfect circle.
Well, and once it's done, once it's dry, then those edges will pretty much stay where you put them, and they can store, you know, for a while until you have time to get back to your applique. So, just going to make that little. Here you go. And once it's cooled a little bit, and that pops right out, and those little
And we'll get our
edges are
fabric.
just perfect. Okay, and then
And
we
so we'll
find our
fold
little
this.
fold lines here. I'm going to
Get this perfect.
see if we can do this on the diagonal. Okay, so we'll find the fold lines on the background, line those fold lines up with the front, and then stitch around it just like we did on the first block. Okay.
All right, so now that we've got this centered, we'll just pin it on and take
Right,
it
and
to
then
the
take it to
machine
the
and
sewing
sew.
machine. And then we're going to chop it up like we did this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we got our
Okay.
blocks done.
Nice work. So we've made 2 opposing blocks. Well, actually 4 total. So we need to chop these in quarters.
Okay.
And
Here's a ruler.
then we can get designing with this.
And
is
you made this for me.
I
You are
did.
keeping me so organized.
Well,
How
your
great is
fabrics
this?
are just so fun to play with. So, okay, so this is an 8.5-inch square, which means we need a 4 1/4 inch. Cut it in half, both
Okay.
directions.
So we'll just cut this here.
Mhm.
We'll turn and we'll cut this
Again at 4 1/4.
4 1/4.
So using these 4 blocks cut into quarters, I've come up with maybe 16 ways to lay them out.
16 out of these 4
Yeah.
blocks. That's great.
And I just love this fabric too. Isn't this cute? This is going to look so fun. So on our UFO to go, here's one of the first designs. And then you can just spend hours playing with these.
Choosing all different directions.
Yeah. Now once you've sewn them, you could actually trim out the back, which I did on these first ones, and reuse this fabric again somewhere else.
Okay.
You know, use it for the next size down template.
Because you do
Because
have
you've
2
machined-
pieces.
right,
So
because-
you would cut that out before you.
You know, I forgot to
Trimmed it
mention that, but
Okay.
but you can leave it in there for reinforcement, or you can trim it out 1/4 of an inch away from the stitching line. As long
Okay.
as it's machine stitched, I think you have better luck doing the trimming out.
Okay.
So, but anyway, hours of designing fun with this block.
And then you could do that.
Right.
So it's opposite.
Yeah.
All right. So there's so many different options.
Yeah, I
you
hate
can
to
do
have
with
you
this.
sew these together right away, just because you can have so much fun designing.
And on your website, you have a lot of examples of
Right.
things you can do with these blocks.
Yeah, you can go to quiltscapesquilting.com and find the tutorial page, and it'll have that chart.
All right.
Okay.
Well, let's go to our next project.
Okay, I'm going to set these aside for now. And this
Lots
one,
of fun colors.
you know, all of these little basic colors that you have go together so well. And I was having a lot of fun cutting out circles once I realized that there's a real fun trick that you can use to cut
Okay.
out circles. And I want to just show that to you really fast. Here's a square, and I've traced the 7-inch circle on here. And so I need a rotary blade.
Okay. Here you go.
So once you've traced your shape,
Mm-hmm.
then if you'll just grab the piece of fabric in your hand and then engage your blade and then turn the fabric as you are cutting. You're basically cutting in a semi-straight line, but you're still getting along the edges without having to crank around that corner around the circle. And that went really fast to cut out all of those circles.
Because we're going to do raw edge on this, so we don't need
are.
to use
Yep.
pinking shears, and this is just another method of sewing on these circles on your quilt blocks.
So do you want to try this?
Sure.
Okay, that one's already been traced. Here's the blade.
So you just went under.
So you
here
just
like
kind of grab it with
this.
your hand, and then you're moving the fabric as at the same time as you're cutting.
That is really slick and really easy to do.
And once you get around about
A
3/4 of the way, you
have
might want to
shift.
take your fabric off and then finish up.
Very easy to do.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. Look at that.
Yes.
And here's our final block. It's called a bullseye block. And we've used a raw edge applique. In other words, stitch just a 1/4 of an inch all the way around
Mhm.
on all 3 layers. And this is another time when you can trim out the back of it and save the fabric for another project, if you wanted to.
Mhm.
But on this block, we also get to cut it into 4ths. And then once all these blocks are sewn, then you can rearrange or just have fun designing.
And it's nice, we kind of use our shade, and then we used a gingham, so you can intermix different
Yeah.
fabrics, but all in the same color families. And then once
Just
you cut these
cute.
up, you can move the blocks around to create different
Right.
circles of color.
So that little circle that we cut out of the other piece, we can use another template,
Mm-hmm.
cut that out,
Add
put
it
it
to
in
the
the center.
center.
Mhm.
All right, that's
Just
a
lots of
great
fun
idea.
designing. Oh, and I might mention that it's put on a 12.5-inch square for the background
Okay,
and uses all 4 of the templates.
very good.
Okay, so you know those little fabric pieces that we cut out of
Mhm.
our Drunkard's Path? We're going to do a really fun project now to make scallops.
Okay,
And once again, we'll use a template and trace around it,
okay,
and then stitch on that line, and then trim it out, and then we'll cut it in half so that we can make scallops for around the edge of a quilt or around the edge of applique.
all right. So with right sides together.
So right sides together.
2 pieces.
Trace
Maybe
your
I'll
line.
just put a pin in there. I'm
Mhm.
going to sew around this edge.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, got your stitching done.
Mhm.
Now let's trim it again with the pinking shears.
Just around the edge.
Mhm.
All right.
And let me show you an example of how these scallops can be used
Oh,
just as an
darling.
edging around a quilt or table topper. And that's all these were, is just circles. And then we cut them in half and put them on the edge of the quilt. You can get about 20 of this size circles on a fat quarter.
Okay.
And so 2 fat quarters would make 40 scallops. Now cut it just exactly in half. You might want to fold
Right.
that
I was
in
gonna
half and
line
just
it up. It's
yeah,
probably a better idea.
easier.
To cut it in
So 2
half.
fat quarters will make 40 of them, and that's enough to put around a 40-inch baby quilt.
Okay. Now am I going to flip this inside
And then you
out?
just flip it inside out. Isn't that great? Easy.
Easy,
And then you would
easy.
insert it in the seam on the edge of the quilt as you're enveloping, stitching around the outside of
there.
it.
Okay.
Cute.
Just very cute.
Fun.
Another great idea.
And you're not wasting your fabric.
Yes, with
Good
circles.
use of scraps.
Okay, so what's next?
Okay, so let's go to our big project in the middle here. Okay, you're going to love this project.
I can tell already.
Bright colors, cuteness. Okay, so we start again with a 4-patch. And this time, instead of using the pellon on the background, then we'll use actual fabric.
A solid.
The solids
Okay.
are great. And you can't go wrong.
Okay.
You lay them right sides together, and then trace your circle, the large circle, the 10-inch.
Okay.
Stitch on that line.
It's going to be your sewing line. Okay.
Uh-huh. And then we get to turn it inside out. Now you might
Okay.
wonder, because we've stitched all the way, how we get from this point to this point. And you'll notice that there's a little slit here, but don't, never fear.
Okay.
That's going to get covered up
So
when
that's
we sew these
what
together.
we did. We made a little slit and then turned inside out.
Right, but this time we do it on the front of the block.
Of the block.
Okay, so here's how we do it. We'll draw a line, or just press a line. Here's my little X. Okay, let's do it kind of together. You do that one, I'll do this one. So find, I've kind of marked these where I want to sew them together.
Okay.
And so you'll press from corner to corner. Wasn't that nice of Lori to make this so that we have some seam allowances?
On both
Okay.
sides.
And just finger press that.
Okay.
And can you see that little line?
Yep.
Then grab your scissors and we're going to trim just a nice little slice right here so that we can turn
Inside out.
inside out.
Okay.
So just about 1/4 of an inch away from that line that we just,
So right along
Mhm.
here.
And just enough so that it can turn nicely without stretching the fabric too much, maybe a 3-inch. But don't make it too long.
Okay. And I'm just starting to turn. So that's what I'm
Right.
supposed to be doing, right?
Yes.
I'm going to use my...
Yeah, use your chopstick.
Chopsticks
to
are
smooth out
not
those
just for
edges.
eating.
That's right. They're really handy
They're
on
really good for sewing.
the turning, especially with this project. Okay. So we get it to that point and then press. And we're going to end up making orange, they call it an orange peel block.
Okay.
And all the edges are finished. And this is going to make a cute little table runner. So we've got the first couple.
Oh,
And can you see where the slits
Mm-hmm.
ended up? They're hiding underneath that little orange peel kind of a thing. Okay, so our first two are done. They're sewn together.
That looks great.
And we'll continue sewing pairs together as long as we want this little table topper or runner. And this is a really fun way to not spend a lot of time and a lot of fuss, but these
it
are
looks really nice.
just really cute. And so to sew a pair together, you line up the seams. And let's give a pin. And then we're going to draw a line, our stitching line. We're going to basically end up making a square out of a circle. So, and if you just draw a line right from that seam line, wasn't that nice of Lori to design these little patterns? So we have a registration mark on the block too. So you'll stitch that together, and then we'll put these pairs together too.
And so these you do the exact same way.
Right.
You start assembling, you mark it and stitch it.
Right, and you're stitching right to that point. And so there's no holes, there's nothing, no raw edges.
Okay.
And you can
Let's go get these
make it
sewn.
grow.
We'll put them together and bring back and show our finished project.
Okay.
Okay, so we finished this table runner.
Isn't
it
that
is
cute?
just beautiful and so clever how all these circles came together.
Look at the backside.
Just multicolors.
And it's done.
It's done. And you could use one base color.
You could
couldn't
use
you?
a solid or just a white would be cute with these.
So all
prints
these
on the
all
front.
these sections would be white, but I like how you have pops of color all along the way.
So to finish this up, you really need to stitch these down, and that basically finishes it.
Just
basically
a straight
quilt it.
stitch.
Yes, you could do an edge stitch or some kind of fancy stitch if you wanted to. But what I would do is start at the top here and just continue down all the way,
Meander.
turn, and finish up that way. And you can always make more and add more and have it grow or become a quilt or a throw. A
Yeah,
really
you
cute
could
thing.
add this way,
Mm-hmm.
all directions.
Yeah.
That is just very clever. And I
Okay.
think we should remind everyone to
Back
backstitch.
stitch at the corners. Yeah, and that'll secure it.
So,
But
very
no
good.
batting, fun and done.
Easy
love it.
project. Okay, what is the last thing we're doing with our
Our very
circles?
last one. We're going to use these circles and make some yo-yos.
Okay.
Now, I love those little tiny yo-yos. Have you
I
made
love-
yo-yos?
Yes, I love
Well,
little small
now we can make a
yo-yos.
big giant one.
Okay.
Because that's the perfect size for a template. All right, so all we need is a needle and thread.
There you go.
Thank you.
Knotted at the bottom.
Right, and because we're going to cover up the center of these yo-yos, we're just going to leave the edges raw. Otherwise, I
Okay.
would have us turn that under 1/4 of an inch. And we're just going to take long running stitches,
A big
1/4 of
stitch
an
all the way
inch
around.
stitch, and then when we get to back around to the circle, then we'll pull it together and make our little yo-yos.
All right.
Our
sounds
big
good.
giant yo-yos, excuse me. Okay.
So I've finished mine.
Look
and
how
I
cute
pulled
that
the
is.
Center together.
Uh-huh. And then we'll just tie a knot in that one
Okay.
and set it aside.
Get my two ends and I'll make my knot.
This one is a little bit bigger.
That's what's nice about yo-yos. Yo-yos, you can just adjust them a little bit.
Just the gathers, and then we'll set these aside while we prepare a little piece of flannel for a baby quilt.
So what we're going to
Okay.
do is stack these,
Mhm.
right?
I'm going to leave the
Their
needle in
center.
this one, and that will give us a place to go, but isn't that cute?
Darling.
All right. So we've got a piece of flannel that's 45 inches wide
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to show you how to use these templates to trim the corners.
Okay.
And we probably should cut the selvages off. We can do that all in one step.
time.
Mm-hmm. Is that ruler down below?
Yes, it is. So are we going to round the corners?
So we are, and that's kind of the perfect curve over there.
There you go.
And we can test out and see which template would work the very best. We'll cut our selvages off. Put that in your trash stasher. Okay, so it's got all four corners here. And if we were using this flannel, we would probably back it with another piece of flannel.
Mm-hmm.
And
But you can use diaper flannel.
diaper flannel is a little thicker, and then to finish it, just put a binding on it. But it looks like this large 10-inch
Does the
template
job.
will be just great.
Okay.
Curve that right off. In fact, we can use it as a ruler and just cut right around it. Perfect.
That does
And
make
all
a
four
nice
done at the same
edge.
time. And with a little binding on this, attach this flower onto it.
Okay.
And maybe even center with a button
you could
there.
do all four corners.
You
and
could.
just secure it.
Uh-huh.
So
Or put a baby's name or something like that. Anyway, and that's our final project for today.
well, thank you, Deonn.
You're welcome.
We've got through so many projects using these circle rulers.
Well, and I'm sure there are hundreds more ideas that you could use these for. It was just really fun.
Well, I'm going to have you back, and
Okay.
Lori's designed more templates, and you're going to show us a few more projects
Okay.
using our other templates.
Great.